All right, let's do something a little different today. We're going to make a house call to a family that's, well, famously mysterious and spooky. But we're not there for the cobwebs or the walking hands. We're on a mission to solve some fascinating medical riddles. We're using the Addams Family as a really unique way to understand the endocrine system. You know, the body's incredible network of hormones that pretty much runs the whole show. Let's get started.
You know, they're creepy, they're kooky, and their medical charts, absolutely baffling. But that's exactly what we're here for. We're going to play medical detective, moving through this eerie mansion to diagnose the strange and wonderful conditions of its residents, all through the amazing science of hormones.
Okay, first up, a tale of two heights. Our first stop brings us to two of the mansion's most iconic residents. And wow, what a contrast. One absolutely towers over everyone, while the other is, well, noticeably petite. And this isn't just a random family quirk, it's a major clinical clue.
So how in the world are the giant butler Lurch and the diminutive daughter Wednesday connected? I mean, they couldn't look more different, right? But believe it or not, their conditions both reveal some pretty amazing secrets about how the body controls growth. Let's kick things off with a Lurch.
Let's pull up Lurch's file. The first thing you notice, obviously, is his height. We're talking almost 6'9". Then you see the enlarged hands and feet, the coarse facial features, all classic signs. The diagnosis? Gigantism. And it's all caused by a tiny, non-cancerous tumor on his pituitary gland, which is kind of like the body's master control center. This little tumor is just pumping out way too much growth hormone. So how does that actually work? Well, all that extra growth hormone basically tells the body to crank up production of another powerful growth factor. And since this all started when Lurch was a kid and his bones were still in their growth phase, it was like pouring gasoline on a fire. It totally supercharged his growth, leading to his incredible height. Okay, now let's pivot to Wednesday. Her case is a totally different kind of puzzle. She has short stature, she hasn't hit puberty yet. Her diagnosis isn't about having too much of a hormone, it's about missing something fundamental. She has what's called Turner syndrome. It's a genetic condition where one of the X chromosomes is missing, and that chromosome is just absolutely essential for normal development and growth.
So when you put them side by side, it's crystal clear, right? Lurch's condition is all about hormonal excess. His growth went into hyperdrive. Wednesday's, on the other hand, is about a genetic absence, a missing piece of the puzzle that put the brakes on her growth. You've got two really dramatic outcomes, but they come from completely different biological roads.
All right, leaving the mysteries of growth behind, we're heading into the living room. Here, we find two more family members with some peculiar and totally opposing complaints. This time, our investigation is all about the body's thermostat, the thyroid gland. This is the classic clinical puzzle. You've got Morticia, who seems totally at home in that cold, drafty mansion, and then you have Uncle Fester, who's basically a human radiator. What is going on here? Well, their symptoms are screaming thyroid problems, one that's working too slow and one that's working way too fast. Looking at Morticia's chart, her symptoms, being cold all the time, tired, a slow heart rate, they all point to one thing. And the labs, they seal the deal. Her brain is yelling at her thyroid to get to work. That's the high TSH. But the thyroid just isn't listening. It's not making enough of its hormone, T4. Basically, her body's internal furnace is set to low. This is hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid.
And then we have Uncle Fester, the complete opposite. He's hot, losing weight, his heart is racing, his lab results are a perfect mirror image of Morticia's. His brain is barely whispering to his thyroid, but the gland is just going rogue, pumping out tons of hormone anyway. His furnace is cranked up to high. This, my friends, is hyperthyroidism, an overactive thyroid.
You see, the thyroid is basically the engine for your body's metabolism. For Morticia, that engine is just idling. Everything is too slow. For Fester, his engine is redlining, totally out of control. Everything is too fast. It's a perfect example of how this one tiny gland in your neck can have such a massive and completely opposite impact on your entire body.
Okay, for our last patient visit, we're checking in on young Pugsley. His case might be the most visually obvious of them all, and it all comes down to the body's main stress hormone, cortisol.
Pugsley's chart shows steady weight gain, high blood pressure, and muscle weakness. When you look at his labs, his cortisol, that's the stress hormone, is through the roof. But here's the key clue. The signal from his brain telling the body to make cortisol is super low. What does that tell us? The problem isn't coming from the brain. It's the adrenal gland itself, just churning out cortisol on its own. The diagnosis here is Cushing syndrome.
Now, Cushing syndrome creates some really unmistakable physical signs because of all that excess cortisol. You got a rounder face, often called a moon face, a fatty deposit on the upper back known as a buffalo hump, and weight gain that's really centered on the trunk, while the arms and legs can stay thin.
So let's recap. We've looked at gigantism, Turner syndrome, hypo and hyperthyroidism, and Cushing syndrome. I mean, they all seem so wildly different, don't they? But there is a single system that ties every single one of these cases together. Let's zoom out and take a look at the big picture.
And that common thread is the endocrine system. You can think of it like your body's own internal internet. Instead of Wi-Fi signals, it uses chemical messengers called hormones. These hormones, which are made by different glands, travel through your bloodstream and control pretty much everything: your mood, your growth, your metabolism, you name it. The Addams Family is basically a walking, talking textbook of what happens when this incredible system gets out of whack.
So how does the body keep all this in balance? It's all about these things called feedback loops, just like the simple one here. Let's go back to Morticia for a second. Normally, your brain tells your thyroid to make some hormone. Once you have enough, a signal goes back to the brain that says, hey, we're good, you can stop asking now. But in her case, that loop is broken. The thyroid just can't respond. And for every single member of the Addams family we've diagnosed, some part of this super delicate communication network has gone wrong.
So, after our little medical tour through the Addams Family mansion, what's the final diagnosis? We've seen just how powerful hormones are and how imbalances can lead to all these incredibly different conditions. But there's a bigger takeaway here, something beyond just the weird symptoms and lab results.
And really, this is the whole point. It doesn't matter if it's the spooky Addams Family or a patient you see in real life. Every symptom is a signal. It's telling a story about what's happening inside the body. And learning how to read that story, how to decode those signals, well, that's the true heart of medicine. Thanks for coming along on this house call with us.